You're listening to the Eat 'em Up Pod, your home for Detroit Tigers opinions, discussion, nonsense, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Jordan Hall and Alex Urban.
Welcome to Eat 'em Up. I'm Jordan Hall, joined as always by the tailgate king of Detroit. It's Alex Urban. Alex, All-Star game. Boys didn't exactly finish the first half the strongest with 2 losses on over the weekend, but down the stretch, boys are playing some better baseball.
It's great to see because no matter what's going to happen at the end of the season, Jordan, it's just fun to see them get hot for a little while. And as much as we've all kind of complained about the record this season and the hot and cold streaks, like they're finally playing full, true, good baseball. And it's made for a fun week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah, for real. I feel like obviously we are always going to watch it to do the show, but for a while it was just like, yeah, I'll turn in to listen to what crazy things Jason and Andy are going to say. But finally able to enjoy the ball. It looks like AJ's decision to move on from Joey Cora paying immediate dividends. We're averaging, 5 runs a game. Clearly that was the difference.
He was really holding the team back, I guess, him in his giant windmill motion and all. But it's great to see, Jordan. Speaking of the All-Star game, are you planning on, we're recording on Tuesday night around 8 o'clock, are you planning on watching this evening?
I am not. Dirty little secret. It has been years since I've watched the All-Star game. I just don't care. I think that's my biggest thing. I would love it if we would almost even take like the best minor league pitchers and have them throw against the All-Star hitters. I just don't love the idea that some of these guys in the midst of their season, in the midst of their, rotation going through, are just going to stop and throw like 1 inning to the best guys in baseball and just empty the tank. I feel like the old pitcher in me just gets weirded out by that. I always worry about injury and feel like I just can't enjoy the spectacle because I'm like, please don't get hurt, especially our guys, but anybody. Just not really an All-Star game guy. Are you recording it? Are you getting ready to watch this after we finish?
No, I'm also not an All-Star game guy for any of the big leagues. I think they're boring. I like the pomp and circumstance of the MLB All-Star game, and it's cool to see like your players rubbing elbows with like the stars, especially if like a Zach McKinstry like snuck in there. I was like, wow, he's hanging out with like the big guys. But in terms of the actual game, no, I don't really have much of an interest. And the home run derby does nothing for me either. I just have no interest. I think it's cool, but I would rather do a lot of other things as far as getting my house cleaned up, doing laundry than watching that.
I think the only thing in the home run derby I'm always interested in is like the strategy that the batting practice pitcher uses in throwing. Like, are they really pumping it in there? Or are they just lobbing it? Like the weird little mechanics like that. That I find a little bit interesting. But yeah, none of the rest of it I find interesting in the slightest. You think when Z-Mac walked into the locker room and like Judge and Juan Soto and all those guys were in there, they looked at each other like, who is that dude? Why does he have such long hair? Or do you think they understood what Zach was doing? I'm sure he was the AL leader in triples at that point. League leader.
I'm sure they were polite, but they were definitely probably like, who is this? Is he like a clubhouse attendant? But you know who I heard that Zach McKinstry like buddied up to? None other than Stephen Kwan, which drove me nuts.
Oh my gosh.
But he's like, the quote was like, yeah, like Kwan and I hung out and you get to like see a different side of a player that you are like rivals with. And I was like, damn it.
I don't want to see another side.
Is he like a
Stephen
nice
Kwan.
guy? No, I want to hate him.
Speaking of, so we spent the weekend down in Florida with my parents, and we saw the Guardians play at Miami, and I got to see Guards ball with my own 2 eyes. They scored like 6 runs, hitting the total out or the ball out of the infield like 4 times. But I will say, I was happy to see Stephen Kwan was hitting 9th and is averaging like 220 this year. It's about time that something finally caught up to that man.
I will tell you, he is my most hated athlete currently in any sport. Like when he retires, I have said I'm taking myself, and I hope you come with me, to a steak dinner with 2 cocktails, or maybe 3, in celebration, and a cheers to a great career, but get lost forever. That's how much I dislike Stephen Kwan.
Yeah, I'm definitely in for that. I probably agree. I can't immediately think of anybody else. There's a couple horses/horse trainers that I'm pretty out on, but as far as human athletes, yeah, Stephen Kwan's right up there. Listeners at home, let us know who tweet at Alex at the show account. Let us know who your all-time least, actually just current least favorite athlete is, and if it is in fact Stephen Kwan.
It's a good choice. He's thorny. With a T. Thorny.
All right, Alex, you ready to play? Are you ready to talk some ball?
Let's talk ball, Jordan.
All right, so as I mentioned, the boys are playing some genuinely good ball, even if the way the last 2 games of the Phillies series kind of was a bit of a blow. Dropped the Saturday and Sunday game because prior to those, like, basically everything that we could have wanted to happen has happened. But unfortunately, Chicago and Cleveland enter the All-Star break having swept the team that they're playing, which is kind of like the cruel downside of being the Hunters is you not only have to win your games, but you need some help. And there's usually a reason the teams ahead of you are ahead of you, is they're decent. But before that, like I don't want to spend all of the All-Star break talking about like, oh man, it would have been great to win those 2 games. The previous, basically just the previous 12 games from where we're at right now have been really, really special. 57-36 in terms of run differential. There's not a whole lot more to say. The boys have been playing some good ball.
It's been fun, Jordan. And you hate to see them kind of drop those last 2 games, but you try not to let it affect the mood for the way that they ended the break. They went on a tear. We said before, if they want to have any realistic shot at being in the playoff conversation, they need to go on a run like that. And they looked like they were having a lot of fun doing it. The offense broke out a lot of nights. We were seeing the starting pitching that I think we expected at the beginning of the season finally show up in the way that we thought they would. And the bullpen quietly not as terrible as they previously were. I mean, I know we talked about some really positive metrics last week, but yeah, certainly the team was clicking on all cylinders for I think the first time this season in general at any point.
Yeah, I think the offense has done a really good job of having the bullpens back. You don't necessarily, I guess the starting pitching too, but they always talk about like if there's somebody in the order that's struggling, you need somebody else to pick them up. But in a lot of ways, the offense has given the bullpen quite a few fairly big leads. So they've been able to establish their confidence with 3, 4, 5 run leads as opposed to that 1 run that we've seen them blow over and over and over again. And we haven't really seen the close game bullpen get it done in a while, but we've seen them hold leads now for the better part of the last 2 weeks. And I don't know. It's at least a starting point. There's plenty of guys in that bullpen that you at least look at the name on the back of the jersey and think, yeah, this should work. Hopefully it's just about those guys finding some comfortability. Starting pitching, though, over these last 12 games, 2.17 ERA from the starters, which includes 79 Ks and 70 2/3 innings. And like I said, the offense is averaging almost 5 runs per game. And this has been against some nice teams. The Yanks, the A's, who, they have really fallen in terms of playoff contention over these last 2 series. But and then the Phillies, like this has been a nice little barometer, and by and large, the boys have stacked up well.
They have, Jordan. And I think for me, it starts with the starting pitching. It just kind of set the foundation of an expectation on a night in, night out basis. And if you see your teammates rising to the occasion, I think that you really want to step up. And they had some, we've asked for the team to show some emotion all season. Well, Tarek Skubal is starting to look a little bit more like Tarek Skubal. And you see the fire on the mound. And then you see a kid like Troy Melton going out and just having career night after career night. But also a complete oddity that I can't figure out, Jordan, is where this power is coming from. And I would love your take on it because the statistic is wild. They hit like the most home runs in any month span in the history of the organization in June. Why? Where did this come from? And how do they tap more into it? And it's like gone as quick as it arrives. But where do you think this power stroke came from? Because that's the one thing I didn't have on my bingo card.
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but if I were to guess, I think it's in large part just kind of the roll of the die. I think there's been some favorable hitting conditions, and if you look up and down the roster, it's not a lineup that's devoid of power. It was just a lineup that for a lot of the season was devoid of tapping into that power. Obviously, Dingler has kind of been there the whole year, but Torque has finally got his home run swing going a little bit. And don't look now, OPS at 718. Obviously, that's not elite, but that is, well, he is the least clutch hitter in the history of baseball in at least one stat. 718 is a playable OPS. Obviously, Riley has started to find the power stroke. Colt Keith and McGonigal are hitting a few more. They're just kind of getting a little bit of a chip in from everywhere throughout the lineup, including I'm sure absolutely warmed your heart. New call up Eduardo Valencia, but I don't know that if you were to say, Jordan, wager one way or the other, is this a top 10 in baseball homer team the rest of the way? I'm still not sure that I would say yes. I do think that they are probably top half, though, and I think that is probably enough to get the offense where it needs to go. It's just a matter of if there's enough time to kind of reel in some of those teams ahead of us. But I'm curious to hear your take. Do you have any thoughts where this power binge is coming from? Maybe that was Joey Cora going. I don't know.
I think you put it way better than I ever could, because I didn't really have an idea of why all of a sudden started to click. I think you bring up a great point. It's not necessarily that they're hitting with more power, but they're just tapping into it. Like, they're starting to hit some of those mistake pitches that they just weren't hitting earlier in the season. And maybe it's some guys just starting to break out of those funks. But that has been a refreshing surprise, especially because this team hasn't had that kind of a power stroke in the last few seasons. And it's nice to see, and it's obviously contributing to a lot of the wins.
Yeah, definitely. They say hitting the ball out of the ballpark helps you win, and so far, at least that has been our experience. Let's jump back to that Oakland series. I keep doing this. I will need them to be in Vegas for several years and really get that down. Let's jump back to the A's series, the road A's. That was one of the best starting pitching displays over the course of a series that I've seen in a long time. 3 starters in a row, racking up 9 Ks. Skubal in 5, Melton in 5 and a third, and Fromber in 7. Skubal has been he's been really prone to the home run, which is incredibly weird. I'm not breaking any new ground here. If you watch him, you can see that right now. That will change. I have no doubt in my mind. His xFIP, let me see, I have it here, since June 1 is 2.40. That is a extremely healthy number. He will be perfectly fine. I'm maybe a little bit more concerned about the strikeout numbers, but they have absolutely been there. That's what I'm concerned with him. Melton, just like you mentioned, it seems as if every time he goes out, he's a little bit better than the time before, which is crazy because he came out absolutely firing when he came back from injury. And then the Fromber that we saw on, what has been Thursday night, is so much closer to what we thought we were getting when we signed him. This is a true difference maker. I mean, we're giving him a lot of money to be a true difference maker on the hill every 5th game, and we've kind of gotten mixed results. I have to imagine that the pitcher that we've seen in Houston forever, the one that we thought we were signing, the one that looks a lot closer than this, shows up more times than he doesn't down the stretch. I was incredibly impressed by the starting pitching in Oakland, or against the A's in Detroit.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Jordan. I think the starting pitching led the way, and you can say that Skubal doesn't go deep into games, or you could say that Melton can't sustain this hot of a start. But if it's working, it's working. And I think, as much as we've given credit to other members on this team, the starting pitching has really turned around the season, in my opinion. Troy Melton just so impresses me, Jordan. I mean, he had all of his pitches working in that last start. He was attacking the strike zone. He was, hitting the corners. It was just such a great display of pitching. He was putting on a clinic, and for a young guy to do that with such confidence and demeanor gets me really excited for not even just the rest of the season, but what we're going to see him grow into as a pitcher. And yeah, Framber Valdez. I mean, I think the stat that sticks out to me, that the strikeouts are nice, but 7 innings pitched. Like the Framber that was advertised to us was like the guy that could go long into games. He's not necessarily, or doesn't have to be, the high strikeout pitcher. He just has to be able to get the quick outs, get the ground balls, stay in the game for a long time and give a breath to your bullpen. And that's more of the Framber that we're seeing lately. The Ks are nice, don't get me wrong, but it's all starting to meld together like I think you could say Scott Harris thought it would going into the season.
I think that's the most credit I've heard just about anyone out there give our boy Scotty. But yeah, I agree. I always flash back to spring training. One of the last episodes before spring camp broke, we spent a long time essentially talking about how this team was going to go as far as the starting pitching can take it. Like, it was kind of right on the backs of that one photo with the 5 starters, which ironically enough didn't include Melton, who's been maybe the best starter that we've had. It kind of took a little bit to get here, but we are absolutely at that point where, I don't know, 5 against 5 against 5 against every other team in baseball. There's not a ton that I would pick over our 5. Obviously, the Dodgers have their plethora. The Yankees have a nice rotation, but beyond that, basically every single night out right now, we're sending out somebody that has a pretty good chance to win. And that's the main reason that I still think that this is not a foregone conclusion in the division, let alone in the wild card.
Yeah, and I mean, we just talked about those 3. Casey Mize has probably been my favorite player this season in the way that he's throwing, and the way that he's finally arrived in my mind. I mean, I think back to that first start he ever had at Double-A when he threw the no-hitter. I was like, oh, this guy's like, how can you not get excited about that?
Yeah.
And, he kind of plodded along through injuries and kind of learning how to be a pitcher, but I feel like this is the payoff for all of those years. If you think back to where he and the organization were, they were squabbling over $25,000 or whatever it was. Now he's becoming a face of your rotation, and hopefully you extend him, but at least he's a really good player for you in this current moment.
That's a really good call. I kind of had forgotten about that, but it was almost like we were trying to push him out of town at that point. Like, can you imagine if
Right.
that had been the end? Like, that would have been such an unsatisfying end to the story when this quantity and quality of results was down the line. It just serves as a lesson. Like, don't be a broke boy. Like, I feel like that it extends to a lot of portions of life. Don't be a broke boy. Just have a little bit of faith, and sometimes good things can happen. All right, I want to jump to your boy. I'm assuming your boy, the man to make his major league debut, Eduardo Valencia, 26-year-old rookie, hit an absolute tank in his first game to slightly left center, but more or less dead center field. You had to be just punching air. That had to be a big moment for you. I know how into debuts you are.
Yeah, it was incredibly special, and I teared up myself when I saw his interview after the game. But just like, this is going to sound maybe really cheesy, but it just reminded me of like why we watch sports and why we watch baseball and why we love sports. Like, I get so frustrated just thinking, like, are the Tigers going to win the World Series or not? Are these players going to get them? I spend so much time being frustrated and arguing with myself about it, talking with you about it, like, investing so much time. But then when you have like a moment of pure joy and you're like, yeah, that's really why I watch the game. And that was just so cool to me. I mean, AJ Hinch opened his press conference by saying, like, baseball's pretty cool, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it is. That's why I love baseball. That's why I think we all love baseball. So, in a world where we're all at each other's throats about our opinions, that was, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, very, very well said. I mean, we talk quite a bit about how these guys aren't robots, but especially some of the guys that took the longer, stranger routes to the big leagues. him, Ben Malgeri, Tyler Holton way back in the day. Like, some of these guys that have lived interesting lives and interesting baseball lives that have led them to this crazy place, and especially in light of everything that's been going on in his home country, to do it. I don't know. Like, I kind of think that's kind of what life is about. Everything that comes before is building to who we are at any one given moment, and for it to pay off in such a cool and tangible way for somebody, anybody, especially somebody that we have grown to care of. He's a Tiger. We innately care about him. Was super cool, and it was just a very cool thing to be a part of in a small way. Because, I mean, whether he becomes a regular big leaguer or not, if he maintains a decent OPS, like, those are things for another day. We'll track those down. But man, some of these first games of his career just kind of low key setting the world on fire. Those are something that he'll remember for the rest of his life, and it's super cool.
That was like a moment on a highlight reel of Tigers moments for me, and I'm so glad that I saw it live. But like, this was a regular season game, but you know what? It was another regular season game that we remember very clearly was Carlos Guillen off of Jared Weaver. Like, It's just a moment that some of us will never forget, or the no hitters obviously, but like, if you ever show a clip of Eduardo Valencia hitting a home run, people will immediately know and like go back to that feeling. And it's something that like they will probably put on their marketing highlight reels for years to come. Like, It was that cool of a moment. And I'm happy for the kid. And you know what? Keep it going. It wasn't just the home run. He's been hot while he's been up here. So they brought him up here definitely for his bat, not his glove, and we saw that firsthand. But welcome.
Defense is for
Valencia.
nerds. Everyone knows that. Yeah,
right.
It remains to be seen if this kid can stick. But it pains me to say that that Jemai is gone, but it was about time. Especially when they play a similar level of defense. Let's not kid ourselves. Jemai was not Gold Glove out there.
Your boy Jemai is the newest member of the Boston Red Sox, by the way.
That hurts my heart. I love Jemai. I wish him nothing but the best. Seems like a real class act. I was both bummed to see him go, but also like, I'm not stupid. I recognize that it's time. I would have loved for him to have gone, I don't want to say anywhere else, but many, many other places before Boston. I feel like our feelings on Boston is well established on this podcast. I'd like to think that all of your opinions are the same out there. I don't know if that's true or not, but I feel like we're all in that one together. Let's jump ahead to the Phillies series. Another really good start from Jack on Friday. Jack just continues to be Dr. Jekyll. I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with the work, but I feel like you all know the idiom. He is the good one at this point. Hopefully the bad one never comes back. But what I wanted to bring up to you was the Saturday and Sunday games. They felt to me a little reminiscent of late season last year. It's the first time in a long time that I've kind of gotten little flashbacks like that. Now, obviously, we were facing two absolute aces. Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler. Those are two pitchers that are as good as it gets. 17 Ks over 13 innings between the two of them. It did bring me back down to earth a little bit. Obviously, losing two games sucks, and that'll do it in its own. But the way it happened, it felt like maybe we haven't licked as many of these flaws as it seemed like when things were going good. Does that track to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a little bit of a heat check for everyone.
Yeah.
Like,
Perfect phrasing.
They were, rolling off of sweeping the A's, and then you go out and you just punk the Phillies on a Friday night, like 10-2. Jack Flaherty's dealing, everything's working, and then it all feels like they got the rug pulled out from under them in the next two games. And it wasn't without chances. Like, what did they hit? 10 hits in the Saturday game? They just couldn't get it across. But I think you bring up a good point. Like, when they went up against better competition and specifically better pitching. And Christopher Sanchez is nasty, like you said, one of my favorite pitchers in the league. They just didn't have the answers. And you could say it's only 2 games, but I do think it was a little deflating going into the All-Star game, just because, they even said it themselves in the broadcast. They're like, if you want to see the Tigers up against one of the best in the league, come on down to Comerica Park. They were selling it as a big series, and, it was a lost opportunity in my mind. But stellar pitching from the Phillies nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely. As I was watching and kind of thinking about it afterwards, it did make me maybe rehash the whole buying and selling thing when it comes to the deadline. Obviously, it's the 14th. The deadline is not too far away at this point. We're probably not going to have that much clearer of a picture as far as where we will be in terms of the standings. It's going to have to be, do you think that you have the goods to make a run? I would say, while we can enjoy a playoff run, that we maybe win another wild card series and bounce out in the next round, I feel like I would enjoy that. We all would. I don't think Scotty kind of has that luxury. I don't think losing in the ALDS while having coughed up capital to try to go further is something he can deal with. It either has to be we're doing this for real, or we're not necessarily buying in a big way. And I don't know. I just think that those last 2 games, seeing real pitching essentially, has to put a little bit more pause in his mind than maybe he did even Friday night.
This is an interesting point that you bring up in relation to last year, because this could be a very small microcosm in your theory of what he probably decided going into the deadline last year when they went into their swoon, right? Because the reports were like he realized when they were playing so bad last year, they probably didn't have it, the goods to get to the finish line. So that's why he kind of went for the very low-hanging fruit and tried to just mix and match. Whether that's true or not, nobody knows, but that is definitely a theory. Like, he's the player of baseball, whatever his title is, Pogo. Like, he can probably have a pulse on how far he thinks his team can go, so he wasn't going to put all of his chips in last year. Are these 2 games against the Phillies going to similarly spook him from doing something?
Yeah, I mean, it's the next 6 games, the next 6 coming out of the All-Star break, those might be the deciders. Like that might be the difference between him trying to pull something actually serious to supplement this team, or what could look like a fairly substantial fire. Like, I don't know. I look at the deadline this year, and I think I know what's going to happen. But anything on either end to either side of it, I would not rule out in the slightest. And I can't decide if that's like exciting to me or if that is like super nerve-wracking. Like, it could go anyway. I think I'm excited for it. I'm curious what my boy can do.
I'm fascinated. And I'm totally with you. Like, we talk all the time about it. We talk to other people all the time about it. People are like, what are the Tigers going to do? I don't know. Like, I could see them be like selling Skubal and Mize and Jack Flaherty, or I can see them going after like a second-tier bat and buying and keeping Skubal. Like, there's so many odds, and you're absolutely right. I think it's probably the direction in which they take is going to be right up until the deadline, or at least in the next few weeks. And you and I are going to be at Wrigley Field, so if it is the next 6 games after the break, we're going to that last one. So we could be going to the tipping point game if what you're saying is correct.
If we see Scotty out in the concourse, as you are known to do, you just run into Tigers dignitaries out there. Maybe we put in a word. Maybe I run my Mason Miller theory by him. Yeah.
What is your Mason Miller theory?
I think somebody asked us who we want to buy. Let's run that one in listener questions. But I do want to get into that because I do have a Mason Miller theory.
All right, fair enough.
Is that a tease? I think
it is.
I have in my notes, I don't know exactly how this relates to what we were talking about, but the bullpen has given up 3 earned run in 20 innings pitched over the last 2 series, and all 3 were Montero on Sunday. I just thought that was worth noting.
I really thought Montero was going to get out of that bases loaded situation. I was like, this is it. And then, can't get them all. But that was tough.
even the fact that like he's given you reason to think that he can and will is such a massive change than most of the guys out there all season. So, at least there's hope.
I still like him a lot.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Alex, we are at the All-Star break. I thought we could just kind of take a quick step back and reflect on what we've seen from. I mean, it's like the first 2/3 at this point. It's kind of always bothered me that the All-Star break isn't like exactly at halfway.
Right there in the
I'm
middle.
kind of can be a very literal person. It should be in the middle, but
At 81 games, I agree.
what is preventing us from doing that? Tradition, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be. We'll send a letter.
Yeah, definitely. 6.5 back of both Cleveland and Chicago, which 6.5 is not a big number. Doing it against two teams is less than ideal. That is, it takes a lot more help. And then 3.5 back in the wild card with 6 teams to jump. That is doable. I will not be convinced otherwise until the math says that it ceases to be doable. But since June 1, like we mentioned, the team is hitting or has a 770 OPS, leads baseball in homers, and I thought this was interesting. Since June 1, the Tigers are 24th in batting average on balls in play, which obviously that doesn't directly relate to the power surge, but it suggests that the average and just the overall offense is relatively sustainable, if not due for some continued positive regression. And best ERA overall, number 1 amongst starting pitching, and number 5 as a team from the bullpen since June 1, which seems like it does not compute, but numbers are numbers,
That BABIP stat is awesome. Like, if you were to ask me, like, what was happening to fuel this offensive surge, I would be like, oh, probably some luck has to do with it. But to see that it's not all seeing eye singles and doubles and things like that is definitely promising. I don't think ERA is going to stay at number 1 and number 5, but hey, that's, in a small sample size, you'll take that all day.
Yeah, I was looking at since June 1. So Scooble's xFIP is, for the non-dorks out there, basically just like a slightly more all-encompassing ERA. Kind of in that same vein. Am I regurgitating that relatively correctly? Not trying to be super precise here, but
Yeah.
Scooble is at 2.40, and all of the other starting pitchers are in the 3 range. Like, this is a slightly more predictive version of ERA, and it speaks volumes that much of what all 5 of these starting pitchers are doing since June 1 is essentially what they should be doing, and this is like deserved results.
Absolutely. I want you to get into this because this is next on our show sheet, but it's I want to just put a quarter in you and keep you going. Feels like the gritty Tigers might be dead to me. Tell me more.
All right, so I was thinking about this morning. So for the better part of 2024, I guess the second half, and the better part of 2025 more specifically, we kind of dubbed them the moniker of the gritty Tigers. To me, that was built on being the less talented team, being the team that kind of has to pull out all the stops, being the team that, like, the whole never say die thing. And somehow the collective became more than the sum of the parts. And that obviously got us to the crazy comeback to make the playoffs in 2024. It got us off to the best start in Tigers history towards the All-Star, but whatever it was, towards the All-Star break. It feels to me that version of the Tigers is dead. I think that it's a good thing. I think it's a much more mature, for lack of a better term, like conventionally good team. Like we're not pitching chaos eating anyone anymore. Like we are dominating with good traditional starting pitchers that will go out there and give you 5 to 6 innings every night. We are not requiring smoke and mirrors to win games with Sean Gunther and Brennan Hanafy throwing the majority of the innings in games.
Brian Sammons.
Brian Sammons. That's a name I haven't heard since the last time he pitched. These are like really good players playing pretty well. Getting more mature and well-rounded at bats at the plate. Obviously, we still are a very aggressive team on the base paths, but I feel like we're not so dependent on being the crazy, unsustainably aggressive team. We still do kind of the pinch hitting stuff. I don't think AJ will ever go away from that, but it feels much closer to a sustainable. I don't want to use the term Moneyball, but like in the model of what Billy Beane was trying to do in that movie. Take areas that we're good at, supplement them with high on-base guys, with high strikeout guys, and just turn that into a sustainable path to success. And I think that evolution is good. I think it's good to have some guys that can kind of play in a lot of different ways. But it's also good to have guys that are just good ball players. You know what I mean? Like, it's good to have Dylan Dingler, who's the best WAR catcher in baseball. It's obviously fine to have two catchers that you can piece together to get by. It is a lot better to just have one that's awesome. So I think in a lot of ways, to me, they've almost leveled up a little bit in terms of talent level to where I'm not sure the Gritty Tigers moniker still fits. But I will yield that thought to you. Thoughts on that?
I love it. I think you're spot on, but it's a different team, right? Like it's the maturity of, and I can't say it any better than you just did. It's the maturity of like a team moving forward. I felt like the Gritty Tigers were a ton of fun, but it also felt like they were the plucky team, like the kind of flash in the pan, and you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it eventually did. But you also don't have to, be the team that has to play like their hair on fire or be like the comeback cats when you can just go out and win the game from start to the finish. I think it's a more mature product. I think it's a more professional product. And I think part of it also is just the guys that have been there now have that experience under their belt. So they look the part and they know the part. So, yeah, I think you're right, Jordan. And I would always rather have one like solid player to a star than like two intriguing platoon players. And I feel like that's what the Gritty Tigers were. Like they were mixing and matching, and everything that they were doing worked all the time. And AJ couldn't like pull any wrong levers or push any wrong buttons. And it was, smoke and mirrors, like you said. This just feels more like traditional baseball, like my team goes up against your team and we'll see who comes out on top.
And the ironic part is, despite the fact that I feel like talent level is so much higher this year, this is the year that we're statistically, it's not likely that we make the playoffs. In the last 2 years, we did. Baseball is such a weird, fickle game.
Yeah, and I think Detroit grit is cool. Like I think that's a fabric of our city, but it doesn't have to be as like every team's that. Like it's the Lions thing too, right? Like we can just come up with something other than being like our team is sandpaper tough. Like they could just be something of their own. And that's where I'll leave it. But the grit is sometimes just a little overdone.
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, starting pitching has been very good since June 1. We'll move past that. We do have 8 players in the top 200, and I actually mean 201 in terms of WAR among all baseball players, because Fromber is at 201. But you got to include him. McGonigal and Dingler are tied for 9th in all of baseball in WAR. That is... It blows my mind. That's unbelievable. That is a rookie, and I don't want to say a prospect that we had left for dead, but people had grown impatient with Dylan Dingler. You know what I mean? Like he spent a long time down there, and his first go didn't go super well. I think it just shows you like sometimes these guys take being a little patient, but yeah, he's there. Riley is number 50, Mize at 54, Cater at 107. Scoop at 117. Obviously, WAR's accounting stat. I suspect that would be higher had he not missed much of the season. Flaherty at 167 and Fromber at 201. That's a lot of very, very useful pieces.
Yeah, and it's that much more frustrating to think that they are where they are when they have two players who are like top 10 and have looked it. Like they have absolutely looked the part of like top 10 players. And it's frustrating that, potentially their great rookie season and probably another Gold Glove and Silver Slugger might be wasted. But if they continue to perform in this way, I think it's a winning formula. They just need the rest of the guys around them. They don't need to be this good, but they need contributors up and down the lineup like how they used to have. They need the Zach McKinstry's to start hitting, and he has a little bit. They need Hao Yuli if he's going to be on this team to back, but more importantly, Gleyber Torres back on this team.
Yes.
There's a lot more that they can add to these names, and these names have been great, but how is the rest of the team going to, propel these guys forward? Because that's where they're going to win them. If they're going to get back to this, they have to win in the margins too.
So, by the time people listen to this, the All-Star game will be over. We'll be looking ahead to the second half. I ask you to put your marker down. As of July 14th, 2026, do you think the Detroit Tigers make the playoffs?
No.
All right.
Sorry.
Oh,
I feel bad saying that. I feel like I have to be honest on the show, but I don't know. I think it's not out of the realm of possibilities, right? Like I think I can give you – I could argue for the reasons why they will make the playoffs, but just in my heart, I just don't know if they have as much little energy as that could energy to like chase down two teams that are ahead of them. Now, the wild card is a different story, but they've been playing much better baseball recently than they have at the beginning of the season. I need to see it sustainably over really up until the deadline to know if they're going to believe. And I could change my opinion in a heartbeat, but if you're asking me on July 14th, I think they just narrowly miss it.
Yeah, I think sustainable is the exact right word that you mentioned there. They have been going good. They've made up some ground. That has to continue. And if that, it is a cruel world. You can't drop series at this point, at least too awfully many. If you wanna do it. I still think they sneak in the wild card. I think it's going to be too tough to overturn two teams in the division. But I just think that the AL is so weak. I think that our five starting pitchers give us as good of a chance to surge to that as anybody. Not a betting podcast, but I wouldn't hammer that, but I'd sprinkle that and have.
I can see where you're at, Jordan. I really can. I mean, I genuinely talk myself out of it by the day. Like when they before the Phillies series or even on that Friday night, I'm like, yep, here we are. This is, and then like we kind of talked about before, those last two games took a little bit of the wind out of my sails. We'll see how they come out of the gate this year. Last year, right before the deadline, they got flattened by the Mariners at home, and we totally shrugged it off as like, oh, they were playing well before that, and then they came out and they did nothing after the deadline. So I'm curious to see how they look after the break, and I sincerely hope you're right because I want with all my heart for them to go to the playoffs and to win.
Man, it's such a bummer. The coming out of it is all of those games are on the West Coast. It's going to be late nights.
Yeah, they're
we'll have to see.
Angels. They start in Anaheim, and then where do they go from there? Is it
Then it's
Wrigley
to Chicago.
after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, so those first couple games. And I think last year they played pretty well, but historically I feel like they never can win in Anaheim.
Yeah, I think it was those games that Scooble got so pissed at Neto.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll happen again. That was fun.
I love some fireworks. Jordan, do you have a Tiger King crown to give away this week?
I do, and I've been really hoping for something like this for him for quite some time. Mine this week goes to Jake Rogers. When the Dylan Dingler injury happened, I think we all about crapped ourselves. That was not something that was pleasant for all of us. But Jake stepped in a really big spot, both that game and the following game with homers, 4 for 10, 4 walks, 2 homers, 3 ribs over the last week. I don't know. It's really easy to get carried away with, or not carried away, but get in on Dingler's great season. Obviously, he's been fantastic, but I refuse to believe that Jake has just completely forgotten how to hit. He was never great, but he was a serviceable hitter. I don't think that just leaves. And obviously, with Valencia coming up, puts a little bit more pressure on him. But he has been a stalwart for this team. I think the guys really enjoy his presence, and it was really cool to see him kind of have a couple big moments of his own right and not on the mound, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he has a positive WAR on the mound this year. But anyway, Jake gets my crown for this year. How about you? Or for this week? How about you?
Well, first I want to say that's a tremendous choice. As much as I think even in the last episode I was complaining about Jake Rogers, he stepped up in moments that they absolutely had to have it. And you think back to, he was a serviceable starting catcher in the major leagues for a couple seasons. The kid hit 21 home runs in a season. It's not just devoid, it's in there. And I think maybe having an opportunity to get back in a starting role reinvigorated him a little bit. He just, I don't know, maybe you could say it's a hot streak, but for that to come out of nowhere, I think has something to do with him trying to meet the moment, which I thought was really cool. So, yeah. Excellent choice in Jake Rogers. Mine goes to one Eduardo Valencia.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious choice for me. How can you not be romantic about baseball? Home run in your first at bat. What a moonshot too, Jordan. That wasn't a cheapie. That was pretty awesome.
No, it was not.
The interview after the fact, and just to think about this kid toiling in the minor leagues for 8 years. And, you're getting to your mid-20s, and he was probably just about to age out of being a true prospect, right? And then you work your way to Toledo, you have a couple surgeries, and then you get your moment. And in the face of everything that he had to deal with back home was, everything we said earlier in that, I thought it was one of the more special moments we've seen in a long time for the Tigers organization.
Yeah, definitely. Great choice.
Let's look at weekly preview time, Jordan. Let's take a look at the next 6 or 4 here. What do you want to do?
Yeah, let's do 6. Yeah, let's just do the full Chicago series.
All right. What is your prediction for Anaheim and 3 at Chicago?
I think they're going to come out swinging, and I will fully admit this is probably more heart speaking over head. But I think they come out swinging. They got Melton, Skubal, and Mize for their first 3. I think they probably sweep. It's not, I guess just Los Angeles. Is that? I think they sweep the Angels. Man, I'm really struggling with team locations tonight. I think they sweep the Angels in Los Angeles. I think that those are very winnable games. I don't think the Angels are anything special. These are absolutely must-win games. And I don't know, maybe it's just because we're going there. Give me 2 of 3 in Chicago. The Cubs don't have a super ton to play for. They're probably not catching the Brewers, and they're definitely making the playoffs. I could see coming out of the All-Star break a little flat. So give me 2 out of 3. Of course, the night we're there, they're going to get the dub. So yeah, give me 5 of 6. I think that this time next week things look really, really interesting. Hit me with yours.
I love your prediction, Jordan. Give me 4 and 2, and I don't disagree with anything you said. And here's to them winning when we are in attendance on that Wednesday game. Which is who do you think is going to pitch that night? Will it be back to Melton?
I think that should line up. Yeah. So after Mize, you got Flaherty, Fromber, and Melton. I'd be pretty pumped if we saw Melton.
Yeah. That'd be him. Any of those 3, I would be pretty pumped up to see.
It'd been nice to see Skubal one more time in a Tigers uniform.
I did think about that. Yeah.
If there's a weekend game in August or September, I'm gonna get that he's pitching. I'm gonna get there. We'll go. Got to see him one more time in person.
Oh, I'm with you there. And Justin Verlander, not a betting pod, but he will make at least one more start in this season, and I think we should go.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Honestly, for Scotty's sanity, I hope it's more than one. Obviously, one would be more than Alex Cobb, But for his sake, I hope it's 3 or 4 just to at least remove a little bit of the old guy monkey from his back. That being said, I don't know, man.
Yeah, because
what if we just didn't sign any more like 38-year-old starting pitchers?
I was just going to say, I complimented him very nicely earlier. I'm going to say, Scott, stop shopping at the AARP membership section with some of these guys. Alex Cobb, Justin Verlander, Kenley Jansen. I think we've understood this is not working. Thanks.
Yeah, no more recruiting from the bingo halls. You leave the bingo halls alone.
Do you want to go down on the farm, Jordan?
Yeah, I didn't really prepare anything other than taking a screenshot of the draft results from what would have been Saturday, Friday? I don't know, whatever day the draft was. I will admit to I don't really know anything about prep or college baseball, so I would be very disingenuous to say that I knew anything here. Do you have any wisdom to impart?
Not too much. I had reached out. Had reached out to our friend Josh, who runs the Tigers Torquemoil Twitter account. We were going to have him on tonight, but there was something he was working, and so we're going to get him on soon because there are people in the industry who know a lot more than us about this. I do want to dig into this guy with Josh because they went with a college righty, Jordan.
Yeah,
which I thought was really interesting. Everyone was expecting the lefty shortstop high school kid, but no, they go, college kids in the first couple. Did you have any initial thoughts on any of these draftees?
Yeah, the only one that I know of is Fluky, and honestly, he's about the only kid in the draft that I knew anything about. I just remember watching him in the College World Series the year before last. He went up against, I want to say it was Cade Anderson, the LSU guy he went first overall in the draft. I can't remember who he went to. But he matched him basically pitch for pitch. He looked really good. That being said, it was like a year and a half ago, so my memory is foggy. But I've seen a lot of evaluators that suggest that he could definitely be the steal of the draft. He's coming off like a weird, kind of fluky injury. So he potentially could have gone higher. But I thought it was really interesting how much Scotty leaned into the college ranks. I wonder a little bit if people like us have been talking about the lack of potential impact arms in the upper levels of the minor leagues. I wonder if there was a little bit of expeditious thinking, seeing if maybe some of these guys don't have quite the same high ceiling, but if there's guys that he can move along a little faster, which I see a little bit of what that could potentially do. So I don't know, just brief takeaways from knowing very little.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I thought the same thing. Baseball is generally best player available, or who you really like, or you can play the money game. But I feel like this was intentionally we need to get some older prospects moved along quickly to start to catch up with some of the guys that we have coming, because they've been largely a young guy, high school team to start. And Fluky, everything that I've read is the same thing as you. He could have been a top 10 pick, and he had great college stuff. It just he was dealing with his injury. This is from MLB Pipeline. His scouting grades on a 20/80 scale: fastball 60, curveball 55, slider 55, changeup 50, control 55, and his overall prospect grade is a 55. So take that with a grain of salt. But he's a 6'6" righty. He's got nasty stuff. So I'm excited to see where he's going to slot in. A lot of times they don't let pitchers start until the next year, correct? Some of them they shut down. But I mean, this kid could start in Lakeland, could start in West Michigan. I don't know enough about where he could end, but he probably is not a kid that's going to be in the minors for more than 2-3 seasons, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I would be surprised if he wasn't in West Michigan by the end of the year. Just at this point, what are we waiting for? He had limited injuries in the spring. I would imagine that reps would be what he needs, not rest or rebuilding mechanics or anything like that. So hopefully they'll be fairly aggressive with him. The only other one I wanted to flag was their 11th rounder, Will Adams. He was a high schooler out of Alabama. He was they took him at number 336, and he was number 102 on the best player available board from the start, which to me suggests that he's likely going to stick with his college commitment, and they're going to see if they can try to convince him to come out of it. But I mean, if you can get that kind of talent in the 11th round, if you don't get him, you're not really out that much. I think that was an interesting swing. Seems like kind of a big, stocky, power-hitting first baseman, which obviously, being Scotty, he's left-handed. So being something to watch, see if we can make that happen and what happens there, especially with the success of guys like Jordan Walker. Give me all those kind of beefy, stocky, but very athletic guys that can hit the ball a mile. We could use more.
Yeah. There might be something real to what you're saying, Jordan, because after the fluky pick, he was ranked 15th and picked to 22nd, so he'll probably sign for slot, not to get too nerdy into this. But the rest of the kids immediately behind him, the kid picked at 61 was ranked 113th. The pick at 69 was ranked 101. The pick at 158 was ranked 228. So they can likely sign a lot of these kids under slot and then try to woo this. I mean, I'm just explaining the process, but I think there's something to what you're saying based on the draft picks that happened immediately following Fluky.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hopefully that's the play. That'd be cool.
So we'll get some people who know quite a bit more about draft picks on the show very, very soon. Jordan, do you want to get into some listener questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Listener wants to know, let's say the Tigers are buyers at the trade deadline. Who are a few players you guys would like to see them target?
All right. Been waiting for this one. This is the one that I want to go off on. So I sent you this, I don't know, at some point during the past week, all of the time runs together. And there's appears to be growing thought within the baseball insiders that the Padres are in a position that they're looking to sell. They're currently, honestly, kind of in a similar position to us, 3.5 out in the wild card, and they're way back in the division. And the thought is, what will they want to do with Mason Miller? And the general consensus is that one top 100-ish and maybe a couple, I don't want to say lottery tickets, but high upside, high likelihood guys could potentially get it done. And I would be very, very much in favor of the Tigers making a run at that. That being said, I am not willing to move Max Clark or Bryce Rayner for this. At the end of the day, he is still a closer. But if a package like Briseño, Jordan Yost, and an arm like maybe Malachi Witherspoon, somebody like that, a little bit lower in the organization, was able to get it done, I think that Mason Miller would be an absolute no-brainer add to this bullpen. Not only just for this year, but he has 3 years of club control left after this year. And I think having a closer really helps you organize the bullpen, like an actual good closer, not like Kenley Jansen. That we've seen how that has helped us organize the bullpen. You can start to essentially piece together roles when you know you don't have to cover the ninth inning, and the ninth inning is just locked in. I think that he would give us that. In addition, it's not like he is just a closer. I mean, he's approaching, in my opinion, generational level closer. That's the number one name that I would like, and I think that is maybe the biggest difference maker that I would be willing to put a lot of our prospect capital into, if that makes sense. What were your thoughts when I texted you that at 7:30 in the morning or whatever it was?
If it was something I believe Scott Harris would do, I'd be very intrigued for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, the control alone is like some, we talk about with players of this ilk, a lot of it's like rentals when they finally do become available. Like to be able to have that guy to kind of build around would be really exciting. So I don't think you're nuts. That'd be an excellent choice. I'm going to go back from mine, who I wanted the Tigers to swing a trade for this offseason. Zach Neto from the Angels. who we're going to see here in a minute, not having an amazing season. He's hitting 235, a 326 on base, a 779 OPS, but he does have 19 bombs on the season, Jordan. And he's just a pesky guy. I think he plays, I hate to use the word grit after I kind of poo-pooed it earlier, but like, he's kind of like what Jim Leland would like call a dirt bag in a good way, right? Like, he's just one of those guys that I'd love to have on the team. And I don't know how much he would cost, but I think ultimately I like Kevin McGonigal at second. I know he hasn't played a lot there, but I think that's going to be his natural position in the future, or third, more than short. If you slotted him in, he's a right-handed bat that I think they've needed for a while. That would be my choice. Might be expensive to get him, but I think the package I had mentioned I would do in the offseason was Briseño, Frangier Bermantia, Colt Keith, and then maybe if you wanted to throw in like a Jaden Ham, that's fine. But that's kind of that would I'd like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I sign me up for that too. Yeah, kind of a glut of infielders, but if you're moving Colt Keith out of the way, that at least helps a little bit. I could be down for that. The other name that I wanted to mention, and he's a free agent after the year, so I don't necessarily know if I want us to trade for him, but is Seiya Suzuki from the Cubs. He is. I don't want to pigeonhole him as like the right-handed Kerry Carpenter because he actually can hit both hands, but he's just quietly one of the most productive outfielders in baseball. I think he'd probably be better as an impact DH, but I really think that he kind of goes under the radar. I know the Cubs are looking for pitching if we do end up selling. Sending somebody like Mize to them for him if we can work out an extension, I think would be really interesting. Just at some point, I feel like there has to be an impact right-handed bat added. Like, obviously Dingler has kind of jumped into that territory, but you, as much as Scotty's trying to guide us that way, you can't have Dingler and 8 lefties in the lineup every night. Like, that isn't going to work. There has to be a little bit of diversity, and I would love it for it to be him. But anyway, those are the guys that I want.
There's another shortstop that I might go after. How about Zach Shorts back with the Mets? But
I will give it to him. The man is a cockroach. He is just a survivor. Good for him.
Yeah. Back in a minor league role, so hopefully he won't have to bounce around as much. But all right, Andrew on Twitter, he wants to know, the Tigers have been hot, but they're still struggling to put much together against good pitching. If we were Harrison Hinch, what would our moves be for the second half?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of wait and see mode. I'm not sure you can make a decision until a couple days before the deadline, because it's going to be such a close call whether you want to sell, stay put, or go all in. I genuinely think any of those could be the options, even some combination, and the more info that they have, the better. So I think right now stand pat is probably my call. How about you?
I think I agree from a macro perspective, but I do feel like some of the guys that have not been performing, you just can't continue to lean on forever. Like, I think the Jahmai Jones thing lasted way too long. Like, he was just taken up, and I know that's your boy.
Oh yeah, no, you're definitely right. My boy or not.
No, but I just was surprised that they gave him as much run as they did. And I feel like it's starting to get that way. And I know they're a little hamstrung by injuries, but like Matt Vierling is not adding much to this club at all. And I think it's okay to take a look at some of the veteran players who just might not have it and make a decision on them if you're really trying to go after it and win. That would be my only gripes about, and then otherwise you just have to line them up and let them go. I think the lineups have been more good than bad, but I trust AJ Hinch in that facet. But I do think they need to stop trying to get some of the lower performers going that are everyday regular players, and just put your best players in the lineup every night on a consistent basis.
Yeah, essentially what they did down the stretch when they were last year, just trying to break the hoodoo, is essentially just play your best 9 every night and hope that something comes out of it. But yeah, I think you make an interesting point on Vierling. When Glaber comes back, there's going to be a decision to be made. I assume it'll be Malgiri just because he has options, but on balance of play, it probably should be Vierling. But yeah, we'll see.
I'm looking up right now if Matt Vierling has options.
Oh, that'd be helpful.
No, he has no minor league option remaining. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, man, if he had one, then you'd have to at least consider that. But he would probably have to be a DFA candidate. And I think they like him on this team. That's the thing, too. I know some of these guys are probably kept around. This is the Javier Baez debate, right? Like, he was so bad for so long, but he was well-liked in the clubhouse. I know they like Vierling. Like, I think he's a more of a vocal leader on this team, but I've just been so underwhelmed by the performance. And it drives me nuts on nights when he's up in a big spot, and you're like, this is not the season to just try to slow play guys. And that's where I'm at with Matt Vierling.
Would you have believed it if in spring training, if I had told you on July 4th that we were hoping to keep James Outman and Ben Malgiri on the 26-man roster over Matt Vierling? What a world.
Oh, that is where I'm at, Jordan. All right, I got not a listener question, but a late episode question for you, Jordan. Give me your... Do you think if the Tigers trade Tarek Skubal, they can still make the playoffs?
I do. I think, I would say right now, and this is just mental math, I would say it's a 35% chance that they make the playoffs. That's probably still way too high. I think that number maybe halves without Skubal, but I don't think it goes away. I think you're bringing back some major league talent. I don't think they're going to move him for Dawel Lugo, Jose King, and the other one. Sergio Alcantara. Yeah, good call. I don't think it's guys that are at low A or double A, wherever those guys were. I think that there is some immediate contributors. And also, you move him, you are probably moving Montero back into the rotation. You get Jackson Jobe back at about that same time for the bullpen. Like, obviously, you lose the best pitcher in baseball, it's going to hurt you. But I think they're in a position to be able to withstand that blow, unless they fully blow it up and move Mize, Flaherty, et cetera, et cetera. But I turn it back at you. Do you think that they can still make the playoffs if they move him?
I do. If they moved him, Mize, and maybe even Jack Flaherty the way he's been pitching lately, and a Gleyber Torres or something like that, then yeah, probably they don't have the gas. But if you're talking, and a lot of people are saying, which is a debate within itself, if they're in a if they're within or even have a wild card position, people will tell you you still have to trade them. Like, I think it's crazy to me if you were ahead of the division to trade him, but again, conversation from a different day. But let's just say that they traded him because his value is at its peak and they're still planning to win. I do think that the pitching as it stands could carry them there, and the team's record is not that good lately with him starting for you.
Yeah,
he's an amazing pitcher. He's going to keep in the game, but you have been losing more of those games and you've been winning regardless, right? Like, these are the games where he can hold you within 6, he can go 6 really strong innings giving up 1 run, but the offense gets nothing. And then you turn it over to the bullpen and then it doesn't matter that he started. You didn't score. I think there's a lot of those nights. Now, again, if it's just him, yeah, I think they could make it. I don't think it's likely. And my only debate to people who say, trade him but still try to go for it. It's like, if you are really trying to win, which I really respect because I like winning, you have to give yourself the best shot. Like, are you better in a playoff series with Tarek Skubal or without Tarek Skubal? Like, you can make all the arguments in the world about setting yourself up for the future, but if you are trying to win right now, you have to have all of your bullets available. And what better bullet do you have than a rotation led by Tarek Skubal and followed up by Melton and Mize? So I just feel like you can't have it both ways, in my opinion. Could they make it? Yeah, but if you're actually trying to win, why are you trading him in the first place?
Yeah, I think that's very well put. If you probably can, but like, why would you? Yeah, I honestly, I'd kind of been a little bit in that halfway house. Like maybe the actual play is to both buy and sell. But yeah, as you were articulating that, I kind of agree. Like, are we really a World Series contender if we move Derek Skubal? At that point, like, does it matter if we add 2 nice bullpen arms? It probably doesn't. Yeah, that's very, very well articulated and kind of changes the way I see on it. So yeah, either buy or sell. Let's not mince it here.
And I'm not going to yell and scream no matter what they do, Jordan. Honestly, I have no idea how or what they're going to do, and I don't know if there's a wrong answer. But it's just all part of the conversation. So
yeah,
it's going to be. I can't wait to see. I just want it to. I don't want to wish away time because I love the summertime, but I'm ready for just to know what's going to happen because our opinions on it are going to change every single night, which is part of the reason why I love it. But it's also kind of crazy.
Well, less than 3 weeks from right now. Man.
I can't wait. Well, that is it for us tonight, Jordan. Thank you, listeners. Thank you for the questions, Jordan. Anything for the good of the order before we sign off tonight?
I don't think so. Enjoy the time off. Maybe watch something educational, and then we'll get back to it this weekend.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, listeners. If you guys aren't already subscribed, please subscribe from your favorite streaming platform. If you want to follow along on the socials, we have a lot of fun. We're at Eat 'em Up Pod across all the socials. Jordan is at Hosted by J Hall. I am at AUrban91. We're always taking a listener feedback, guest suggestions. You want to get a shout out on the show or give a shout out to somebody else. eatemuppod@gmail.com. New episodes every Wednesday. And until we talk to you again next time. Go, on behalf of Jordan Hall, I'm Alex Urban. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.